Welcome back to our channels, Warriors. We are still growing. If you haven't had that old school OG homie that wears the creased up Dickies and the Ben Davis buttoned up to the top and looks like this, smash that subscribe button. Go and have him smash it right now. First and foremost, let me give a shout out to the following patrons: Tony Rex, Hernan, Michael Mua, G, Winston, Abuelita Irma, Alejandro, Trailero760, Grant, El Skid, Nathan, Hobie Cat, Mika Boy, Lead with Love, Charles, Elbert 12, Soulstar LA, AI Vega, Esquiel, Big Bad 48, JT, Nova, Jack, Linda, Angel, Michigan Wolverines, Mikey, Marius, Chevelle 66, Gigi, Abuelita's Journey, and Dallas Herrero. As you can see, that list is getting bigger and bigger. If you have not already signed up for that Patreon, make sure you hit that link in the description below. You're definitely missing out. This episode right here, man. Very rarely do I talk about organizations and heavy hitters of the California Department of Corrections, prison gangs types, what we used to refer to as prison gangs that are now referred to as STGs, security threat groups, right? The state wanted to follow suit with the feds. I believe the feds call them STGs. Therefore, that changed. And I like to skirt these issues. Well, it's not like I like to do it. It's just that I skirt these issues because I'm not going to go into detail of the who's and the who's and the who's. As you guys know, I was employed with the California Department of Corrections for 16 years, starting in 2006. Things were different then than they are now, drastically. But are the old days returning? Well, Hector, the 2006 weren't the old days. The 80s and 90s were the old days. Yes, true, but are we going backwards? I think so. I think so. As far as violence, I think it's gonna go back to how it was. Well, Hector, how the hell was it? Well, let me tell you. When I was a young CO, shiny little green jumpsuit, transcon type, little black boots, spit shine, little lunch bag with 2 sandwiches. I was at Centinela. You had 4 yards. Well, not including minimum. You had Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. All general population. No SNY at that time. Charlie Yard used to flip back and forth between level 3 and level 4. Always flipping. Give or take a year, 2 years, it would do its little thing. Then, back then, back then the heavy hitters were in the shoes, security housing units, Pelican Bay, Corcoran. You had all the soldiers doing the dirty work, dirty deeds, making money through illicit means, removing individuals through violent means, sending people to Brazil, one-way tickets. I've told you guys that I've been involved in numerous race riots. As you guys know, California state prisons are racially segregated by the inmates themselves. We in green staff members do not say, hey, you Mexican, get away from this black. Hey, you white, get away from this other. We don't do that. They do that, right? Well, heck, can't you stop them from doing that? Not necessarily, no. If you put the two wrong people together, it's not going to work, right? You try to house two people together of opposite races, they're not going to go into the cell. Well, heck, can't you force them into the cell? No, not necessarily. It's going to end up, everybody's going to end up getting fighting and it, pow, pow, it'll be a Royal Rumble. It's not going to work. Well, heck, can't you put Fresno Bulldogs down in Ironwood and Calipat? That's a whole nother damn story. Man, California's sticky, icky with it. Here we go. This is what I remember. I'm shot out on the inside, guys. I had ED. I have been restored since I've left the department. But I remember when the blacks and the Mexicans used to go at it, let's say Delta Yard, Centinela, depending on the circumstance and depending on the situation, sometimes that hostility would carry over throughout the whole entire prison. Sometimes, not every time, but I do recall like the prison would have that crispiness to the air. Like, oh shit, the blacks and the Mexicans going at it. Right? Because this shit would happen periodically, like normal program. Because they would move inmates from one yard to another. They would tell their homies over there, oh yeah, we just kicked it off with the blacks. They fucked up a homie real bad. Oh, they did what over there? Not over here. And then like hostility spreads like wildfire. That's what that looks like at that time. Spreads like wildfire, right? You got to be cautious. You got to be aware of who's key players, who the fuck is who, what's what. All right, you guys want to know how green works? We see it all. We're not dumb. We're not blind with a little stick. We're not, we see, right? No disrespect to those that are blind, but you hear what I'm saying. We hear, we hear, we see kites, we hear rumors. Well, when would it end? When would those riots and hostility end? They always ran it back. They weren't happy until they were happy. They weren't happy until they felt satisfied that they got their get back. Let's say let's say 8 blacks jump 2 Mexicans. Boom. Now what you're about to have is a war. Back then, an absolute war. Once they let the heavy hitter in the bay know, they would shoot down a kite saying a green light on site. On site, kick it off. This is when they didn't give 2 fucks about the money and they cared about the power and the respect. That's what it looked like. And no disrespect to that. That's just the way it was. Hey, fucking kick it off. Fuck them. Like, that's what that looked like. Damn. This is also what it looked like. The Mexicans would play possum. It was strategy. They would lull the enemy to sleep. Maybe they would run it back one little skirmish. Maybe they would send 6 Mexicans on 1 or 2 blacks. Let's say a black is getting escorted to medical. For some reason, you had the kitchen worker open the door. Now you have 6 fucking Mexicans running out and fighting, stomping this dude out. They could pretend and tell the blacks, hey, everything's all good, everything's cool, everything's hunky-dory. But it wasn't. It wasn't at all. That was like that was an appetizer. And the main meal always came. It was, and we saw this shit, man. You guys were not fooling nobody. Everybody's stocking up on canteen, going to store. You would see, we would talk about it. Oh shit, look at them. Look at what they're doing, right? They're loading up. It's like going into hibernation. It's like stocking up, like prepper status. They start going to store, and for you guys that don't know, why are they doing this? Because they knew they were going to go on lockdown. When lockdowns used to be lockdowns. I can't emphasize this enough. There is 0 lockdowns. 0. If you don't believe me, ask anybody you know. 0 lockdowns. There will now be 0 AdSeg. 0 AdSeg. You're not going to the hole anymore. You can slap a cop around and here's your dinner right here. Hit me and here's your food. Please don't do that again. It hurt. Straight up. So they would stock up their store. Oh, man. They would all shave their heads. This is Southerners, right? Because this is my experience down south. And then there was that one joke, the Mexicans have on boots, right? We would watch everything. The blacks would wear blue, their state issued jackets, and it would be Centinela. It would be 117 outside, and all the dudes are wearing their blue jackets. I don't know. I don't have any. I might do. I might do a experience an experiment for you guys. I might get a blue jacket and a kitchen knife and try to like stab it, see if it actually does stop it. I don't think it will because it's just cloth material. But I don't know. Maybe psychologically it stops or slows down a knife blade. I don't know. But they be wearing the damn blue jackets. Mexicans too. It's like they were gearing for war. Mexicans got on boots. They lulled the enemy to sleep, and they were patient, man. They could wait 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month. They could wait. It never really got past like 2 months. 2 months to let it slide would be kind of a long time. So like by the 1.5 month, oh, they were gonna fucking kick it off. Full scale riot. Full scale riot. Code 3. Everybody involved. Plenty of weapons. Plenty of injuries. Plenty of use of force. And now, are the blacks content? Probably not. They just got fucked up, right? So they would run it back. And this would fucking go on this would just go on. Sometimes they would transfer them to other prisons. They would say, hey, yeah, down here we're doing this. Oh, shit, well, up here we're doing this. It's just an all-out war. So when they let the heavy hitters out of the bay, and I've come to realize this, they did not like their experience in the shoe. They didn't like it. I would not like it. I don't know anybody that would like it. That shit was fucking nuts. That's history. Like if you endured that, you should write a book for sure. Fucking history, or at least interview on my channel. That would be great. Because you have to preserve that history right there, man. Talk to somebody who was in a box for 30 years and their mind did not break. Ooh, that says something. So they come out, they're like, no, hell no. I ain't trying to go back. Peace treaty. Well, that caught the soldiers at the troop level, inmates, blue, off guard. Like, hey, man, we've been fucking warring with these people. We've been warring with these people for the whole time that you guys were up there, 10, 20, 30. I'm not even going to say 10 years because that's lightly. That's nothing. It was, well, that's something. Don't get it twisted. But these dudes were in there for 20 to 30 fucking years in a damn box. I don't know how the hell. Oh, my God, that's history. Seriously. It's up there with like Vietnam POW status. Like, think about it. You're in a fucking box. Wow. So they're like, hey, peace treaty. You got these little southerners like, hey, what the fuck? What you mean peace treaty, big homie? Nah, they don't be talking to them like that because they'll get fucked up. By fucked up, I mean killed, right? So the game changed at that point. 2014, 2015-ish, right? That was when I went to Donovan. My whole life got turned upside down. It was a fucking nightmare. It was a mess. Everybody is wondering what the hell is going on. Inmates, staff, administration, right? Just chaos, pandemonium. Centinela State Prison, Charlie R. Level 4, GP killers. I remember an incident probably in the year 2012-ish. The blacks went off on paisas. Okay, well, the paisas fall under the umbrella of the South. If you guys are tracking my drift. That caught us off guard. Like, the fuck? That had to have been a money issue. There had to have been a money or a disrespect issue. Either way, the black level 4 GP killers that were definitely not fucking around and definitely down with the business and some OGs went off on the paisas. Well, they're Mexican. That's not going to sit well, right? We were watching like, the fuck is going to happen next? Like, the Mexicans have to run it back. They're going to have to run it back. on behalf of the paisas. Like, it's just, what the hell, right? A fucking triple threat match. Well, I would work C6. C6 was a standalone ASU behind Charlie Yard. That's where it has like the corridors, the pods. It's like it's an ad seg, so to say. And I had a rapport-ish. Right, my communication skills sucked in the beginning. I would fine tune them. By the time I resigned, I was fucking the master of communication. There was a white Sureño, and I know his last name. It's right here in my head, and I know his AKA. It's right here in my head. I will not be saying it. He kind of maybe was or was not a shot caller. The dude was very influential amongst his people. Right, he was a white. He looked white. He was white, but he was a Southsider. And while escorting him from his cell to the yard, the cages, the individual cages, I said, "What's up with that, man? Is it over?" And he looked at me, said my last name. He's like, "Come on, man. You know it's not over." You know, he said, he wasn't giving up information and he wasn't holding back information. He's like, you know what's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen. It's already. He said, like, you know what's gonna happen. It's already in motion. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like, we know. We've been seeing the pattern. The pattern. They attack each other. They attack back. They attack each other. They attack back. But they never did run it back. They never did. And we waited. Staff, right? Because you got to mentally prepare. You're about to see a fucking chaos. You're about to see it kick off. You have to quell it, right? You have to get in the mix. So, you know, we start preparing, start shadow boxing when nobody's looking, maybe do a couple burpees in the observation, right? Clean the dust off the scope of the weapon. Nah, just kidding. I don't be having no scope. But you know what I mean. You have to get ready. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. But they didn't run it back. And I remember that. And I still remember that to this day. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. That's kind of weird because nobody likes to lose, right? Nobody likes to lose. Nobody likes to take the L. Well, fuck, if you had them, they didn't run it back, then they took an L. Oh, they took an L. That's what that is. I'm not even sugarcoating it. So, but the whole fucking point of this damn video is what I'm trying to tell you is, up in high desert, now my memory is shot. What I'm going to do is reach out to my sources. I keep my ear to the tier. And on my Patreon, I'm going to get detailed with it. You may or may not have had some Crips go off on a heavy hitter up north. Boom. This was right before I left too, like, and I'm wondering what's going to happen with the peace treaty. What's going to happen? Is they going to fucking reset the whole clock? Is they going to reset the whole department? So, yes and no. You would expect a bloodbath to ensue. I mean, that's mandatory. That goes without saying. So then I see another channel. Shout out to Flacco. Right, I got to give credit where credit is due. That was the first podcast I did on the YouTube, put me on the map. He said that that Crip that was involved in High Desert went down to Salinas Valley State Prison and got booked by two Sureños. That makes sense. Right? This is just me as an outsider now. Now I'm an outsider, but I have this knowledge and wisdom and experience in this cranium, this brain of mine. I'm going to see how it plays out. I'm going to play out the game before it plays out. Well, if you're a Crip and you book a heavy hitter, holy shit, you basically signed your own death warrant in the real world, in reality. But if they didn't handle it then because they couldn't, they shouldn't, they wouldn't, they couldn't, they didn't have the means, they just fucking let it slide, I don't know, right? This is where it gets weird. Now the dude hits Salinas Valley down south. He transfers. Well, that dude is labeled like that is a guy that stabbed so-and-so. Everybody's going to know him, right? The dude just made a fucking name for himself. For good or for bad, Well, the good part is like, hey, that is the dude that fucking stabbed so and so. Like this dude must have balls of steel. But it's also bad because now you have a fucking giant target on your back. Here we go. Here we go. So he goes on to say in the video that the two Southerners stabbed the dude. The dude somehow makes it. Oh, fucking shit. Somehow escapes, not escapes the prison, escapes a little stabbing and makes it to the building where he informs the other blacks, hey, I just got stabbed by two fucking Southsiders over here. Oh, what, homie? That's me coughing and pulling a weapon out of my ass. And now all hell breaks loose, right? Everybody's stabbing the shit out of everybody. And we're back to square one. Oh, fuck. So is this going back to the old days? Possibly. Is this looking like it's starting to spread like wildfire? Well, yeah, that's what it looks like. Here we go. Is this mean the end of the peace treaty, peace treaty, titty witty bitty, itty bitty titty committee? I think so. I think this is what we're trying to see. This is what we're starting to see because I failed to mention, holy shit, that up in High Desert State Prison, you had a heavy hitter from the whites, right? The whites. So you have all these different organizations. You have the Mexicans from the South, the Mexicans from the North, the whites and the blacks, right? This is me doing a peace, kumbaya, but it's anything but because you had members, whites stabbing Crips. It's like now you're not playing around. Now you're not that they didn't have it in them. Of course they had it in them. That's why they are who they are, where they're at. But now you're leading from the front. You're showing the rest of the population this is what time it is. You have to understand something. But it gets a little more detailed. They had the assistance of the Mexicans. Holy shit, Hector. What the hell is going on now? It's hard to keep up. I know. Rewatch this whole fucking thing. You would also see alliances like that. And this is what I never worked with Northerners up north, but Northern inmates, Norteños, but they would say the Northerners would ride with the blacks if it kicked off. And down south, of course, at times, the Southern Hispanics, Sureños, and the whites would ally. It's so weird, man. It's kind of like sometimes you have allies, sometimes you have enemies. Don't trip, because your ally today can be your enemy tomorrow. So it is fucking. Here's the funny thing about it. Well, it's not funny. You have newer staff members. It's all newer. The days of the OGs are fucking. They're either getting fired, retiring, resigning. Hey, fuck this job. Fuck this, man. My dick has stopped working for too long. I need that motherfucker to. Right? And the newer generation inmates, they're not ready for what's about to ensue. They're not built. Oh, Hector, you can't say that. We are built. I don't know, man. It gets violent. It gets treacherous. It gets dog eat dog world. It gets gruesome newsome. Right? With that, the message for today is as things change, everything stays the same. Is that how that goes? Hold on. I don't want to fuck it off for you, bro. As things change, they remain the same. Yep. The more things change, the more they remain the same. In other words, I fucked up that message, but you hear everything's coming full circle again, right? The good thing is I don't have to deal with that shit anymore. Keep pushing forward.